Today's podcast includes commentary from a guest speaker. Neither the RIA Compliance Collective nor RIA Compliance Concepts is affiliated with the speaker or the company he or she represents.
Whether your advisory firm has 1 or 5 people, compliance will always be an issue. RIA Compliance Concepts is more than just another service provider. We truly care about seeing our clients prosper. That's why we started our podcast, the RIA Compliance Collective, providing up-to-date compliance guidance. We're passionate about doing our job so you can focus on doing your job. We understand regulatory compliance like the back of our hands, from full-service RIA registration to annual compliance reviews and everything in between. We're here to get you there.
Hello, everyone. This is the RIA Compliance Collective, and I'm Megan Campbell. Co-hosting with me today is my friend and colleague, Ivan Barreto. We want to welcome everyone back as we gear up for this new season of the podcast. Ivan, isn't it exciting that we're already kicking off season 2?
Yeah, that first podcast season that we did was obviously a learning experience, but it also was something that was really, really awesome for us to get set up and start. And we were really busy through annual amendment season for our clients. And I was just jonesing ready to get started on our season 2 podcast. So I'm really excited.
Yeah, I know. I had a blast recording the first season, and I'm really excited about this one. We have some really great guests lined up for everyone, and hopefully some really helpful tools and timely topics to help you build and maintain a compliant advisory business. And right out of the gate, we want to talk about something that's on most people's minds: social media. It's everywhere. Social media has become such a large presence in our lives, whether it's just your personal accounts, the news you read, the people you keep in touch with, the products you buy, hashtag influencers, and how people find and connect with your business. It has seeped into so many aspects of our lives. And when used effectively, social media can be a very powerful tool for your business, since so many people are on these platforms daily and usually multiple times throughout the day. That being said, if you're in the financial services industry and you want to use social media to create content for your clients and drive business to your website, we always have to keep in mind the advertising rules and regs that are put in place by like the SEC and FINRA and state regulators. And because of these restrictions, your compliance team probably makes you go through some sort of approval process before certain content can be posted to any social media site. You might even be limited as to what content you can create and what platforms you can use. And if you're on a compliance team, you can easily get bogged down in reviewing everyone's content, which keeps you from doing your other compliance tasks. It can be a pretty frustrating process, but it doesn't really have to be. There are tools you and your firm can use to help approve and schedule your content so you can focus on the other aspects of your business. Here today to discuss this, we have Thibaud Clement. Thibaud is the CEO of Loomly, which is a collaborative brand success platform that helps marketing teams create better content for their audience. He's a self-taught programmer and has, over the years, created and been part of some pretty interesting startups. One that piqued our interest also was this candy subscription service that he created. Maybe he can give us a little insight on that as well. Thanks for joining us today, Thibaud.
Hi, Megan. Hi, Ivan. Thank you very much for having me. It's a pleasure to be on your podcast today. Yeah, sure. The candy business, it's funny that you bring it up because it was kind of a long time ago, but it was actually one of the first businesses that I set up with my partner, Noemi, who is also my spouse. We've been working together for 8 years now. And so it was a funny story because we were traveling around the world, just visiting a new country every month for a year. And so what we did was basically we bootstrapped this candy subscription business, and we were buying some candy everywhere where we were going, and we were just shipping them. It was pretty cool because everyone was kind of getting their share of, I would say, creative and original candies from around the world for a very, very limited price without traveling. That was a fun business, again, that we bootstrapped. I like to say that we bootstrapped it with minus $200 because we really had basically no money as backpackers. And we actually pre-sold the first batch of orders. And with that money, we purchased the candies for the orders. It was really a fun experience.
That does sound like fun. And I can appreciate some interesting candy, that's for sure. To start off, can you tell us more about how you came up with the idea for Loomly and even where the name came from? We're always interested in how people come up with their branding.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's actually funny because there is actually a link, it's a long story, but there is a link between the candy business and Loomly. So once the candy business took off, we actually sold it. And so what happened is when we started the candy business, we were like, we were learning everything, and we kind of observed that building a website was getting easier every day. For instance, with solutions like Shopify that requires absolutely zero coding experience. But then the hard part was actually driving traffic to the website. And so that's how Noemi and I, again, partners in crime, we started a new business, which was a marketing agency called Madalena, operating both in France and here in the US, serving essentially 5 brands for the luxury division product of L'Oreal. And so in that business, as an agency, we had this process where we had to create content for our customers every month. And all of that was essentially based on spreadsheets. So you would create an Excel file, you would include about 20 posts, IDs, and images and copy in the Excel file. You would send it over email to your clients back and forth about 20 times to get some approval from them. And then once you got the approval, you would copy and paste everything to social media, and then you would do your report at the end of the month to say, hey, here is how the content performed. And so we had been doing that for a couple of years, and Noemi was in charge of about 15 clients, and she had to do that every month. So it was kind of a nightmare. It was a very repetitive process, and it was very error prone. And so the agency was taking off. And so I told her, I'm pretty sure we can do better than that. So we looked online. We didn't find anything. The best thing we could find was kind of Google spreadsheets, because you could essentially add a collaboration layer to the spreadsheet, but nothing really actually customized for the process. So I just started building a small prototype just for us. And that was back in August 2015. And by the end of the year, we had like a very, very first version up and running. It was just a very, very, very basic application where you could upload your post IDs, you could upload the copy, the image. It would kind of put together for you a mock-up so that you could preview what the post would look like then on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. And then you could invite people to kind of just say, hey, yeah, I like this post. It's approved. You can go ahead and publish it. Or no, please change the copy or the image. And that's it. There was no publishing feature, no analytics feature, basically nothing. And so we tried this early version with our own customers, and we didn't tell them it was our own product because we wanted to get some honest feedback. And they loved it. One of our clients even told us that he would fire us as an agency if he had to go back to using Excel after trying the platform. So it was a pretty good, proof of concept. And so from there, we basically opened up the platform to public beta. And well, the rest is kind of the pretty crazy growth that kind of followed that. And to answer the second part of your question, Loomly comes from a loom, which helps people create some fabric and some clothing. And it's like a guide, like a Canva that helps you create something. So Loomly is exactly that. It's a Canva to help you create your post on social media.
That's awesome. I would never have thought of that as part of your name and how you created the business name. So prior to starting recording the podcast, we had an initial conversation about the importance of establishing a pre-workflow in the social media review process. Can you walk us through the workflow you created for that review process and approval process for social media? And how did that idea come about? And use some real life examples of where this would help a company prevent them from, or initially help them be proactive in curtailing something that shouldn't be posted on a social media account like Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or LinkedIn. Could you give me a little bit of a feedback on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So essentially what Loomly allows you to do is, in its current version, which is much more, I would say, mature than what I was referring to in the early days, you can basically create a post with the copy and the image, the links, the hashtags, the mentions. And then Loomly will automatically generate a mockup for you, a preview, showing you what that particular post is going to look like on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and LinkedIn and Pinterest. And that is a very visual way of seeing exactly what will be published on your accounts once you publish the post. And so once you've done that, you can basically assign each post to someone in your team, to a collaborator, and you can ask them to review the post, to approve the post, and to comment on the post so that you guys can actually create the post together. And on top of that, you also have a post history that tells you every time someone changed something and the date and time that happened. So all of that happens before you actually hit publish or schedule and your post goes live. So it's a pretty powerful tool for a team in a regulated industry to make sure that once something goes out, it has been reviewed by everyone. For instance, the legal team, the product team, the sales team, everyone who is involved into the company and can say yes or no, we should or we shouldn't say this and that. A famous example that pretty much everyone is aware about is if you are the CEO of a very famous electric car company, which is publicly traded, and you kind of mention that you have secured funding or you bring up news about the state of production. Well, maybe, just maybe, if you had submitted that tweet to your legal team, maybe your lawyer would have told you, maybe we shouldn't say that because this is going to influence the market and the SEC is not going to be happy about it. And maybe you wouldn't be in court these days for that kind of thing. So this is, I think, an example of where it's useful to review your content before you publish it. But there are other instances, when it was the ICO craze and everyone was kind of talking about white papers and buying tokens and everything. It was pretty crazy because at that time, nobody was really sure about what was a utility, what was a security. Were you able to actually guarantee any kind of profit or return on investment? I guess no, but maybe, that's something you wanted to actually check before you put out. Or if you are a financial advisor and you are putting out some content for your customers, maybe you just want to check something as basic as a typo. Because if you forget or you add a zero in an interest rate, I think it kind of makes a big difference. And it can actually, you can then, be at fault for, false advertising or something like that. So making sure that you review everything before you publish it is actually a pretty strong safety net for anyone in a regulated industry.
Now for a short break.
Loomly is the brand success platform that empowers marketing teams to manage every aspect of their social media communication. To learn more and take part in a 15-day trial period, go to www.loomly.com.
And now, back to the podcast.
Safety net for anyone in a regulated industry.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned that. Not only do you have to make sure you're not, when you're posting something as a registered investment advisory firm, there's various advertising rules that dictate what you can say in your content. But there's also an important disclosure requirement that typically follows along with what type of content you're putting out there. And so having someone from a compliance team or legal team look at your post to make sure the proper disclosure is in place is also very, very, very crucial. So Thibaud, since you're pretty much in the social media industry with Loomly as a product and tool to help promote through social media, what are some of the social media trends that you feel financial professionals need to pay attention to in regards to implementing a social media marketing strategy?
There is one thing which I find really, really interesting, which actually predates the creation of Loomly and actually started when I was working in our own agency, which is that we are observing a long-term trend where authentic, original content is more than ever prevailing over anything else. Back when it was, again, the whole frenzy about SEO, from one day to the other, we just observed that search engines just started penalizing duplicate content and giving priority to original content. And the reason for that is because in the early days, there was not so much content. But then when there was more and more content, they had to prioritize it. We are observing a very similar thing in the social media space nowadays, where in the early days, because the social media platforms needed content, they would show your content to everyone, what is called basically organic reach. But as these platforms grew and kept growing, they had to start prioritizing the content because there was just not enough time in the day to display everything to everyone. And so this is when they started introducing algorithmic feeds instead of chronologic feeds. And so when you are in an algorithmic feed situation, you have to make sure that you understand what the algorithm wants. And these days, what the algorithm wants is basically original content that is authentic, with accurate information, and that is informative for your audience. I'm not the one saying it. You can find all this information on facebook.com, where they will provide some guidelines for publishers, and they will tell you exactly what I just said. But interestingly, there is a move that Twitter made recently, that not so recently, but like in the past year, that we find very interesting, which is that they started actually banning from their platforms any applications that actually allow the publication of duplicate content. So publishing the same tweet either multiple times to the same account or to multiple accounts is now considered duplicate content on Twitter. And those applications that allow you to do that are basically banned.
Oh, wow.
All this to say, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So all this to say that everything is pointing into one direction and one direction only, which is basically you have to create original content that is authentic, that is relevant for your audience, that is consistent with your brand, and you have to publish that content relatively frequently. So this is a big trend, and it's only going to keep going into this direction because, again, there is just more content published every day.
And as far as, we know the common social media channels that are available right now, like Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest. Are there any other social media channels that are up and coming that may be of interest to other financial professionals and start taking part in? Or is this pretty much the pillar channels to work with?
No, I think you're right. These are the fundamentals at the moment. There are some new players, or not new, but like platforms that are making a lot of noise, such as, of course, Snapchat, but also, TikTok, which is kind of all over the place these days. But I'm not sure these platforms are relevant for financial advisors. However, what is interesting is with content getting richer every day and better every day, well, channels that are super interesting are maybe, podcast channels where you can, basically put out your audio content. It could be SoundCloud, Spotify, the App Store, but also video channels. And I think that if you are a financial advisor and you are an expert in your field and you want to share some knowledge with your clients, YouTube may be an actual interesting opportunity because you can actually show your face, which kind of builds trust, and you can share some useful knowledge. You don't have to publish long form videos. It could be just, 1 minute insights that you just publish once a month or once a week, and you just kind of educate your customers along the way. So yeah, that's probably where I would go. Then, of course, LinkedIn, I guess, is super important because it's a serious place where you can discuss important things a bit less, maybe I would say unstructured than Twitter or Instagram.
Okay. And out of curiosity, we recently got notification that Google Plus is pretty much shut down. Do you feel like that is something that will come back and be resurrected as a social media channel to use in the future? Or is that something that you feel is it's pretty much a done deal and it's gone?
Well, no, we do think that it is basically a done deal based on the information that we had as developers, where they basically explained that they were shutting down the platform. They actually did it earlier than expected. And it's interesting to see that such a big company like Google or Alphabet with so much firepower actually wasn't able to pull it off. So I think it's interesting to see the value of community and audiences on those social platforms and the importance of the content, because it's kind of the chicken and the egg, right? You If you don't have any content over there, then it's unlikely you will have any users. But if you don't have many users, it's also unlikely that people will start producing content for them. So that's where you see the value of such big platforms like Facebook and Instagram and LinkedIn. And yeah.
So is it basically they didn't invest enough resource to build that up as an opportune or a social media channel to be used? The basically lack of resources that were invested in it is why what led to its demise?
I can't really say. I wasn't there when they built it. It just seems that it didn't just drive as much traction as Facebook did or as Instagram did.
Okay, so on a lighter note, or getting close to wrapping it up, as you're well aware, the Avengers superhero genre is a big thing. It's been going on for almost 20 years now. The new Avengers movie is coming out, and interesting enough, in the news, I guess the pre-sales went crazy and broke box office records, and pretty much no one can get a pre-sale ticket, and people are selling it on eBay for $2,000, which is crazy. With that being said, we want to instill some fun question to ask all our guests, unrelated to what we're talking about, just a fun question. So one of the questions that we're going to ask is of our guests is, what would your superpower be and why?
Oh, this one is actually easy. My dream is basically like, if I could never have to sleep, that would just be my dream.
Wow, really?
Oh, I've never thought of that one.
I've never even thought of that.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy. I usually like start working around 6 a.m. and sometimes, like most of the time until 8 p.m. Sorry, but that's basically because I have to get a life and I just have to do other things. But startup founder, you just don't have enough time in your day. So if I could just kind of skip the sleeping part and be still in good shape, of course, that would be truly fantastic.
Wow. No, seriously, that's something that is new. I came up with this question when I was a manager in my previous position before starting RIA Compliance Concept, as far as developing the interview questions for potential candidates for looking into working for the company. I always threw something fun in there, and it would be interesting to see how people reacted to it. And when I've asked this question before, I typically get, I'd like to fly. But you always get that one person that always comes up with something that out of left field, and you just gave me one of those out of left field.
Very nice.
No, but there was someone that initially said they wanted to stop time, so they had more time, and that was their superpower, was to be able to stop time and be able to do things while stopping time. So it's similar to that, but
it's the same thing. While everyone is sleeping, you can just keep working.
Yeah, exactly. Wow, that's interesting. Well, that's a great answer. Well, Megan, I think we're ready to wrap up. Thank you so much, Thibaud, for taking the time out of your busy schedule. I know you got a lot on your plate as a startup CEO of a company, and we have the same, there's not enough hours in the day. So time is of the essence, and time is very valuable. So I really, really, really do appreciate you taking the time to get on our podcast. And Megan, I guess, take us on home.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure speaking with you guys, and I really appreciate you giving us this opportunity. And anytime.
Absolutely. It's been a pleasure. For our listeners, we'll have links to Loomly's website in our show notes so you can learn more about their services. We want to thank you all for joining us today and hope you can join us again next time on the RIA Compliance Collective. Until next time, we're here to get you there.
Thank you for listening to the RIA Compliance Collective. Your support is greatly appreciated. If you want to experience the RIA Compliance Concepts difference yourself, visit riacc.io. From mock audits to customized compliance procedures, ongoing compliance assistance, and beyond. We're here for you always. Keep listening to discover more on how you can keep your advisory firm compliant so you can focus on achieving your goals. RIA Compliance Concepts. We're here to get you there.